Welcome to Bookwood! Hi, I'm glad you chose to spend some time with me. Today is Reading Journal Update Day, and we have a lot of work to do. Not only are we going to make the stats page and fill out the annual challenges and readathons, we will also be updating the pages I made for the different readathons I took part in May. So here you can see how I add in the books that I have read for the Tarot Books Challenge, and the ones I have read for Hikathon. I dedicated a vlog to each of these readathons, so if you want to know what they are about, you know where to go. When setting up my reading journal, I created this memory spread to keep some of the activities we did. I had no plan for how I would use it. I think this layout is a good reflection of the fun we had. I used to be a picture girl, complete with scrapbooking and such. But vlogging has turned me into a member of Team Video. I had to make screenshots of my clips to have photos to add. How do you prefer to keep track of your memories? Photo or video? Leave me a descriptive emoji in the comments. The spreads for the readathons are all filled in, so now we can work on the stats page. I have picked up 22 books in May and DNF'd 3 of them. 11 of those were physical books, 4 were ebooks, which is good for 3,402 pages, and the last 7 books were audiobooks for 57 hours and 43 minutes of listening time. I found my reads in various places. 7 came from the library. 4 I owned. I used my Kindle to read 4 books, 3 were included in the subscription and 1 I bought, and the 7 audiobooks all came from Audible and were all included in the subscription. Last month I read only novels, but in May my reading was more diverse. I have read 12 novels, 6 novellas and 4 manga. My reading was also more diverse in the genres. 8 genres this month, 6 last month if you wonder. My top 3 were fantasy, contemporary and, surprisingly, romance. Hang around for the second part of this wrap-up if you want to discover which romance books have made me want to read them. Twelve of these books I've read in French, 8 in English and 1 in Dutch. 10 of the books I've read were standalones. 2 were part of a duology and 10 part of a series. I did start 4 series, read 5 sequels, finished 1 series and DNF'd 1. I have read 19 different authors and 12 of them were new to me. How am I doing with my annual challenges? Let's fill them in so we can find out. Adventures in Eldia. Book read. It was a book with the words sleep or dream in the title. Four of my reads could be added to the 52 Book Club's 2025 challenge. I have not been counting how many prompts I have already fulfilled. I will do that next month so we can have a little update on how far we are in the middle of the year. I have added 5 authors to my ABC challenge. I feel I tend to dedicate a book to this challenge only if I cannot make it fit in the other 2. Don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it seems that in this way the authors are now stacking up more quickly than in the start of the year. Only 3 books for my 25 in 25 challenge by 4 pounds and a book. I did obtain a bingo, so that means that now I can buy a book and I know exactly which one. For the challenge Les Étapes Indiennes, I had to read a novella. I chose the setup. And of course I read my book for the Fit Salon by Literary Diversions. I continued reading for my reread project. And another book for my Read Me bingo. I didn't expect this bingo to make me read so much of the books that are laying around. With 4 new series started, I have some work on the series tracker, but I will only add in 3 series, since one of those I started is also the one I decided not to continue reading. This month I did read the book for the Moni's Book Club. Even better, it's the one I voted for. With the last spread of my journal updated, we are ready to head into the reviews. I have read a lot of books this month, and reviewing all of them right now would make this video very long. So I have decided that I will not talk again about the books that I've read for the Tarot Books Challenge and Hikathon. You can find my thoughts on those books in the vlogs dedicated to these reading challenges. I will add them down below and I will put them somewhere on the screen so you can click to those videos if you'd like. I will just mention the books that I've read for those so you know what books you can find in what video. For the Tarot Book Challenge, I have read 5 books and they were Allunia by Tiphs, The Turncoat Gambit by Andrea Cremer, Le Murmure des oubliées by Fatima Mezian. This is a French-only book. Allunia is too. I've also read Shine as Long as You Live by Alice Quinn, and I have read The Stuck Up Suit by Keeland and Penelope Ward. In the Hikathon vlog, you can find my thoughts on the first part of The Golden Fool by Robin Hobb. In French it is called Les Secrets de Castelcerf. Marion Zimmerman's Swords of Avalon by Diana L. Paxon. The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. And the first 4 volumes of the manga La forêt magique de Hoshigahara, or The Magical Forest of Hoshigahara, which is not translated to English, by Hisae Iwaoka.
T'es gentil. Mais t'es un petit peu chiante là. Oui.
Let's talk about the books that I read that were not in these vlogs. I had 3 DNFs this month. The first one I DNF'd is The Original Dream by Nubile Amal. This is not really a DNF since I have decided to pick this book up again later. This is a flow of consciousness, magical realism book in which we are following Maya, and we are in her head. This is written in the first person, and she tells us a lot about a lot of things. She starts off with who she is and where her family is from, and then she goes on having a lot of thoughts and magical thoughts about that, and we will follow her through her day into a night where she starts a very special dream. I managed to read 100 pages of this book in 1 week, and that made me very sad because it was frustrating that I always had to go back reading some pages when I picked it up again. This book is splendid. I think it needs, at least from me, that I can go sit down and read 2 or 3 hours at a time. Unfortunately, I'm in a period in the year and in my life where that is very difficult. I run around a lot, and so most of the time I read in sittings of 15-30 minutes, depending, sometimes a little bit longer. But with this book, these short times of reading were complicated. I could not always stop at the end of a chapter or a thought train, and this led to the fact that every time I picked it up again, I was kind of lost and I need to go back and see, oh, this is what was going on. So I decided that I picked it up in the wrong moment and that I will leave it on my want to read list and read it at a more appropriate time for me. I DNF'd also Dreams of Idlewild by Dr. Jonathan Powers. This is a book that was in my Kindle subscription. It was included. It's a novella, and I didn't find a lot of information about it. I think it is a self-published work that only came out in May. And unfortunately, this was absolutely not a book for me. It is, to me, Christian-based, and even if I live in, let's say, a Christian country, I was not brought up in this religion, so there's many aspects of it that I don't know or don't understand. And I think that many of the basic ideas are very crucial to understand this book. What I got from it is that it's about a family or people that are at a point in their life and they have to choose or are in a place where they get approached by what seems to be at that moment a human, but that gives them like an option or a choice that feels like too easy or not the right way to go, and it feels a little bit about good versus evil. And I picked this up right after the original dream. Maybe that influenced it too, but I really could not get into this book. I really could not bond with the characters of it, and I decided that if that's not the case and it's not for me, and I let it go. The third book I DNF'd is Siddartha by Herman Hesse. This is a classic novella that is some kind of retelling or based on the life of Buddha, but then very fictionized. I don't know if that's a word, it should be very fictionized. And I listened to it on audiobook, it was included in my Audible, and I thought it would be a nice story to listen to, getting to know a little bit more about Buddhism. But again, this was a novella I couldn't get into. I found myself not really hearing what the narrator was saying. It felt a little bit long and too fast at the same time. It's difficult to explain. So I let go of that book also. There are so many other books that are waiting for me. I don't hesitate DNFing what is not for me. So what books did I end up finishing? The first one is Le couvreur et les rêves by Kiyoko Murata. This is a Japanese novel in the Japanese slice of life style. Unfortunately, it is not translated to English, and if I understood well, this is a book from 2014, but it got only translated to French last year in 2024. So it's relatively new here. In this book we are following a lady main character, I think her name is Midori. She doesn't really mention it. So again, this is a first person book, and this lady, we meet her at a point that there is a leak in her roof, and she asks her husband to have a look at it. He tries to repair it together with their son, who is called Ryota. That is a name that we hear often, and this does not work, so they have to ask a professional to step in and come repair the roof. The person that does this, his name is Nagase, and he will be the second main character of this book. Due to the heat, our female lead will ask Nagase to come and eat his lunch inside the house. It's way too hot to eat it on the roof, and the living room is cool because of climatization. And they start to talk, and we learn that our female main character is quite interested in how a roof works and how it is built. And Nagase is trained in repairing the traditional roofs from the Japanese temples and pagodas. We will learn in this book a whole lot about the construction of roofs, and we will extend that not only to the temples of Japan but also to the cathedrals of France, like the Notre Dame and the cathedral from Chartres. This is quite an unusual topic, but it was somehow interesting. It made me want to look up these different type of Japanese roofs. It is told through different ways. One is the story that some traditional roof makers from Japan have left messages on the word in English, and they leave messages in there, and these messengers told the story about their lives or about their movements since they went from temple to maintain the roofs. And this will all be visited in dream, because Nagase has become a lucid dreamer who can steer his own dreams, and he will teach this way of dreaming to our main character. And it is by these dreams, Chichi, Chichi, vraiment, la cam, ah, t'es coincé, ne tire pas, tu vas y aller? Okay. And it is in dreams that they will visit the different roofs that will be addressed in this book. It is the dreams that bring the magical realism element to these books. Slowly, the separation between dream and reality starts to fade. Our main character has difficulties distanciating what she dreamt of what is real, and I thought the magical realism was extremely well done. I always like a way of Japanese storytelling and writing, the calmness of it. I was very surprised by the fact that they made this topic of roofs so interesting, but then the topic of lucid dreaming and this element of magical realism made this a super good read. At the end, I was left wondering, I was left with the feeling I want to read this book again, but I'm not gonna reread it right now. I want to think a little bit about it, and maybe next year or the year after I will most certainly read this again to see if I can distinguish better where the things start to escalate. Unfortunately, not in English, otherwise, but if you can read Japanese, if you can read French, go ahead. It is a surprising book. After this one, I had to find a novella for Les Étapes Indiennes, and again I went for a Audible included one. It is called The Setup, and it is written by a lady whose name is very difficult. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I will put it on the screen somewhere. And this is such a fun novella. It is under 2 hours listening, which is very short. And I know that novellas are not my favorite stories. I like the text that I read very deep in world building and character development, and I miss that in novellas. I often have trouble getting in the story. When I'm in it, it's over. But this one got me in it. At the second it started, and when it ended, I was disappointed. It ended because it was such a good story. This is a book in which we will be following at first Adi, but later also Krishna, who are both children of Indian immigrants or immigrant families. It's their grandparents who moved from India to the US. And they both have a very close bond with their grandparents. They both have only one left. For Adi, it's her grandfather, and for Krishna, it is his grandmother. And one day, starting off with Adi, her grandfather, who recently lost his most beloved wife, asks her if she would be okay going on 3 arranged dates to see if she likes one of these boys, and is open to marriage. So she's 28, she's studying to become a doctor, And she's not ready to get married, but her grandfather is a little bit afraid that he will not live long enough to see this fantastic event in his life, and so he asks just to give it a try, and of course she gives in. This is how we will meet Krishna, who is the blind date of Adi. They are both determined not to like the other, because none of them agrees with this arranged marriage thing. And we will follow a first date of them, and that will not particularly go well. It is when they both arrive on the second date they agreed to that they discover the clue of this story. So I could tell you more about it, and I surely want to, because it is so good and so funny and so touching. But if I tell you more, I give it away, and then for you there will be no fun to listen to it. So the characters are very funny. The characters have a great banter. The characters have great personalities, especially Eddie. I really recommend this book to you. If you have Audible, if you have 2 hours to kill, listen to the setup. It's worth it. It's really worth it. This month I also started one new series. I listened to Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. This was for the Muni book club. I had this series on my wanting to read list for a while, since I did love a lot of T. Kingfisher's books, like Bryony and Roses, Swordheart, which is in the same world, and Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking. I really enjoyed the writing style and the stories in them, so I was quite happy with this book club pick. But in the end I have finished the whole book, but I will not be continuing this series. I could clearly find T. Kingfisher's writing style in this book, but it was way less funny. This is one of the things that in this more cozy fantasy attracts me. I was less impressed by the plotline, and I hesitated a little bit to decide to finish or not finish the series, since I thought, well, maybe there will be like more events or more things to come in the next books, but then each one of the 4 books is concentrating on another paladin. There will be 7, if I understood well, in total 7 paladins, 7 books, and it's mainly romantasy, how these paladins find their partners. I thought the story was a little bit empty. In the book itself we are meeting Stephen, who's a paladin, and the god he was a paladin for has died a few years ago, and he is now adopted by the Temple of the Rat. The Rat, who is another god, a god that is has everything to do with justice. So the priests of this temple are basically lawyers, and the ones who offer protection to the ones who need it. Stephen one day in a quite unusual way meets Grace, and he falls in love with her. We will also have a point of view of Grace, and we will learn that she is a perfume maker. She has fled a bad marriage, a city, and is always prepared to run again. And together they will end up in a complot to kill a royal guest in their city, a prince, I think. Grace will be asked to create a perfume that's unique for this prince to give as a gift. And when after that he becomes ill and clearly poisoned, it is Grace that will be accused of poisoning. And we will follow how Stephen tries to get her out of prison, how the Temple of the Rat does everything they can to make sure that she's declared innocent. And during these events, we will spend a lot of time on the romance element of it, and we will see how Grace has not that much confidence in approaching Stephen. We have the same going on his side, and how they both deal with the situation, their feelings, and how they end up opening up to each other. It is most certainly a very nice romance to read, since it is not like in many romantasy or romance books. Oh my God, and here we go for more than anything intimate scenes. But then I felt that, to me, and I'm not a romance reader, so it makes sense, the storyline other than the romance wasn't detailed enough, wasn't high-stake enough. We have a little side quest of heads. They find decapitated heads. The bodies go missing, and we have a little bit about that. But in the end, it wasn't enough to make me want to read the second book, to know what is going on there. It felt like it appeared when it was convenient, but unfortunately for me, and the cozy and the romance didn't work out. So I didn't have a bad time reading this book. It was okay, but then not okay enough for me to really want to read the second one. So I started and I DNF'd this series as in one go. And after reading all the books that I needed for my readathons, for my year-long challenges, I had some time left before the next month. But it is the Amazing Readathon in June, and I didn't want to start a big book. So I picked up again Dr. Dolittle. If you don't remember, or if you haven't seen it, we started this book, it's my kids and I, in February as a bedtime story read. And we didn't finish this book. And we decided not to finish it in the bedtime story moments, because my sons didn't appreciate this story very much. I thought it was sad not to finish it, so I did. And I must say that what was left of this book was not as interesting as what we had already read. So I think most people know the story of Dr. Dolittle. This is the story of a doctor who prefers being a veterinarian. So he is more busy healing animals than humans, and he can talk with animals. And this is how he gets, first of all, very poor, and second of all, asked to go to Africa to go heal a ape community. I think this is how you say it. And we will follow him, how he gets to this point. We will follow his trip. We will follow his adventures in Africa, where he will get in some trouble with some native, a native royal family. And he will eventually make it back home, and all things end well. He will be rich and will have no trouble for the rest of his life. I picked it up again on the way just before they get back home, and I thought that this last part was way less detailed. There was not much events. It was a wrap-up of the story. So overall, it was worth discovering this classic. We didn't see the movie. That will something I will do with my kids, watch the movie. But knowing nothing about it, well, it was nice discovering it. After that, I'm not sure we will be reading this book again. The last book I read was The Trein der Traagheid, or The Train of Slowness by Johan Desne. This is a book by a Flemish author from 1953, and it is one of the first books in the magical realism genre. It is Johan Desne that introduced this genre into Belgium. This is a reread for me, since I have read this book when I was in high school, which is a long time ago, and it is by reading this book in high school that I started to love magical realism. Unfortunately, rereading this book was a disappointment for me. I had to adjust to Dutch again. It was a while since I've read a book in Dutch. I had to adjust to the more stiff, older version of Dutch as well. And then, even if when I picked it up, I couldn't remember anything about the story, whilst reading this novella, it all came back. And so the whole surprise of the magical or the events that are the magical realism went away. In this book, the events are explained, so we know in the end where the magic occurred. We don't know why exactly. The whole point is just it happened. I am not entirely sure if I would give you a resume and how far I will go. So if you are speaking Dutch, because this book has not been translated in English, it has been translated in several other languages. French is one of them. But if you plan to read this book at some point, please don't listen to my resume, because it will contain some spoilers, since it is so short and since there is so few chances that you will read this book. We meet a nameless main character. He works as a museum director, but on Sundays he's a teacher in a bigger city, and we meet him after his day of teaching, when he takes the train back to his smaller city and to go home to his family. The thing that I thought was not that nice to read is that it is our main character that relates the story, like if he writes an article or something about it, and he tries to keep his anonymity, so he doesn't say which cities, and of most persons of whom he speaks, he will only mention initial. It reads not so nice to me, and I think it's a little bit pointless in this book, but that's how the author did it. And he's on this train, and he's slowly drifting up to sleep. And when he wakes up, he sees at his surprise that everybody in the train has fallen asleep, that it is quite dark, the lights in the train are not on, and outside it is getting dark, it is evening.
it seems to him that it must be later than last week, because last week it was still clear when he got home. And so he's a little bit puzzled, and he decides to get up from his seat and to walk down the train to see if he can find someone else who is awake. He will meet an older man that introduces himself as Professor Herrenhutter. And they start talking. They start off with some polite small talk when the train completely stops. And they notice a young man running along the train. So they interpel him through the window and ask what he's doing. Well, I am taking advantage of the fact that the train stopped to run up to the first engine, to the locomotive, so I can get some information about what is going on, because this is so strange. Both our main character and the professor decide to follow the young man. They set off, the three of them. But when they are halfway or something, the train restarts and just drives off, leaving them there in a landscape that is so neutral, so passe-partout, that they're not really sure where they are. But in the distance they see some lights from a village, so they decide to head to those lights and to see how to get home from there. During this walk, these men will talk about small talk, but also more philosophical, and they will even mention a theory to explain their situation. They are like joking, like, imagine that this is like this theory that states that there is this place in between life and death, in between all things that you can reach by meditation and whatever. And imagine that this is where we are. And they continue on walking, and they go to this village where they find a tavern, and it's a little bit strange, but just not strange enough to really bother them. And anyways, they have nothing else as an option, so they go in, and they discover that nobody speaks any of the languages they master. Not Dutch, not French, not English, German. They speak a language nobody understands, that also doesn't sound like common. They manage to get food, drinks. There is a small orchestra playing, so they join into the dancing with the other guests. And at some point, everybody jumps up, pushes all the furniture aside, and a tram comes rolling in. There are no rails on the floor, so our main character is quite puzzled. And at that moment he notices two things. One, the older man has become completely absent, he doesn't talk anymore, isn't reactive. And the younger man seems very eager and in a big hurry to get onto this tram. And they get a little bit into a discussion about, no, I don't think you should. Yes, I think you should come with me. And it ends up with the younger man taking the tram and the main character not, because he doesn't want to leave the older man behind, the professor behind. This is when we come to the end of the story, and our main character hears somebody trying to get him attention, shouting. And when he regains he feels himself regaining consciousness, and he discovered that the place where he is completely different. And he turns out that the train had an accident, that he was pulled out of the debris. He then goes to see to the other people around him, and he discovers the older man that is in a very apathic, I'm not sure if he's in like a shock state and completely away, or if he is effectively in a coma. It's not very clear to me. And he will also discover that the younger man died. And the clue of the magical realism is that they were right with this theory and they were joking about it, but it was exactly what was happening to them. And I think that the fact that the magical realism is being explained and resolved at the end of the book takes away a whole lot of its magic. I have reread it. I was eager to do so. I had been longing to do that for a while. And I regret it because now my magical memories of this book are gone. I will put it back in my library and we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe I will reread it again in 30 years and maybe I will never. Follow this channel to find out. So I hope that you had a great reading month in May. I must say that overall, out of all the books that I've read, most of them were quite fantastic reads. I wonder if you have read these books and what your thoughts on them are. I wonder if you have recommendations to make to me based on the reads that I liked in this wrap-up. And all of that, and if you have questions about my reads, you can leave that down in the comments or I'll be happy to have a chat with you. See you soon!